Star Wars is a franchise that simply refuses to stop giving. With galaxies worth of characters and stories to discover, this is one series that Disney and Lucasfilm refuse to stop milking. Plus, if they ever do start running out of ideas, they can just go back in time and explore another storyline through prequel films and series. Sounds easy enough, right? Turns out Obi-Wan Kenobi, aka Ewan McGregor, doesn't think so. Here's what he had to say. Starting off with the prequel dilemma. McGregor's decision to play Obi-Wan was an extremely tough one, considering the giant shoes he was stepping into. Not only did McGregor absolutely blow away all expectations, but he also ended up being arguably one of the most memorable characters of the prequel trilogy. Even McGregor himself found playing Obi-Wan so enjoyable that he willingly returned after 20 whole years to reprise his role in the Disney Plus Obi-Wan Kenobi show. However, as much as the star enjoyed playing around with a lightsaber and bringing Obi-Wan to life, the actor admitted that there were many challenges involved in making the prequel trilogy. Recently on the Smartlist podcast, hosted by fellow actors Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett, McGregor talked about the one thing that had challenged him the most while filming those films. His remarks, of course, were in reference to the fact that the majority of the prequels were filmed on green screens, with most of the backdrops and set elements being digitally rendered through computer effects. Though such computer effects were a big part of Lucas's vision for the films, they also helped push filming technology forward in a major way. Many actors have complained about how difficult it was to play scenes convincingly with nothing but green walls around them. Up next, this is no longer the case for most big studios. These concerns have been heard thousands of times over the years by producers. Many studios now employ LED-powered virtual sets that allow actors to be able to see what was going on around them rather than having to do it all in their heads. This type of technology was also used in Disney's The Mandalorian, where they used a giant 50-foot wide curved television screen to display the background instead of having to manually insert a background. This helps cut down on production time and also helps the actor perform better, as they can actually see what their character is meant to see, rather than a tennis ball wrapped in the green tape being dangled in front of their heads to show them where to look. Even McGregor himself has previously praised this new approach. The use of virtual sets for the Obi-Wan series was also well received by the star, saying that it made us feel like we're there. Though it's true that many find the prequel trilogy fake and two-dimensional, mainly because of Lucas's over-reliance on green screens, CGI, and a general "we'll fix it later in post" mentality. But many still find the prequels extremely captivating, despite the many dehumanizing practices used in their creation. McGregor also still sounded like he had some doubts about the way things had been approached in the prequels. On the other hand, there were other problems with filming prequel films as well. Typically, when you write a story, you start off with a beginning, a middle, and then top it off with an ending. This format has been used in television history since the dawn of cinema. However, some series prefer to do it their own way. Take Star Wars, for example, which starts off in the middle, then the beginning, and then moves on to the ending, and then back to the middle, and then the ending, and then loop around all the way back to the you get the point. As you might have guessed by now, this type of filming comes with its own set of problems, the two main being generating hype, and then continuity and retconning issues. The first problem is quite simple, really. It basically revolves around producers and directors asking themselves, how are we going to generate hype when our viewers already know what happens next for our characters? It's also just as easy to avoid. Employ some big-name stars and promise to reveal some more of the in-universe lore. That's usually enough to get people to consider giving it a watch. And then we come to the second issue, retconning, which basically means that something happens in a prequel film that doesn't exist in the original. This, of course, causes continuity issues, which end up creating more confusion. Even a massive franchise such as Star Wars has had many problems caused by retconning, most of which originate from the Clone Wars animated series. Let's take a look at some of the continuity issues in the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars improved many elements of the prequel films in many different ways, but it also retconned a lot of elements, not only from the prequels, but also from the old expanded universe and the larger Star Wars saga as a whole. Perhaps the biggest one was the idea that Anakin used to have a Padawan of his own, Ahsoka Tano. Although Ahsoka's debut in the Clone Wars wasn't really well received, she ended up quickly becoming a fan favorite and is now just as important to the series canon as characters from the live-action movies. She's even getting her own solo Disney Plus show soon. Another interesting concept that made Clone Wars stand out from other entries in the franchise was that each clone had its own personality. Unlike the clones in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, where clone troopers were just fodder characters waiting to be lasered in half by a Jedi, Clone Clone Wars decided to give each clone their own distinctive personality. Darth Maul survived being cut in half by Obi-Wan after his final battle against him, and Qui-Gon through their power of sheer hate and desire in order to seek revenge against those who did him wrong. Then there's also the number of times Anakin and Obi-Wan had faced off against Count Dooku. During the start of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin briefly talked about how much his powers had doubled ever since he and Count Dooku had crossed sabers. In the Clone Wars, it was revealed that the Jedi and his Padawan had run into the Sith Lord dozens of times throughout the intergalactic wars. Meanwhile, there was also a major event in the series that never got talked about. Perhaps the biggest retcon of them all was that Anakin knew all along about his fate of being corrupted by the dark side of the Force and ending up becoming Darth Vader. During the Mortis arc, Anakin saw what his future was going to be like, including his iconic fight against Obi-Wan, Padme's passing, and his transformation into the legendary Sith Lord. Though this memory was erased from Anakin's mind by the end of the arc, Anakin has still technically learned that he was going to eventually become Darth Vader before Revenge of the Sith. Meanwhile, in other Star Wars related news, first off, Rian Johnson confirms that his Star Wars trilogy is still in development. During an interview with Empire, Johnson revealed that his trilogy project was still in the works, though it had been put on the back burner for now. Johnson's Star Wars trilogy was originally announced back in November 2017, before The Last Jedi's theatrical release. Despite regular updates from the director, the project still remains in the early stages of development. Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, has explained that this was because of Johnson being busy filming Knives Out 2 and his multiple film deal with Netflix. Though not much is known about Johnson's trilogy, it's expected to be an original entry, unrelated to the Skywalker saga. Next up, John Boyega praises the canceled Duel of the Fates film, but refuses to read the leaked script. For many fans of Star Wars, including John Boyega, it seems that the axed Duel of the Fates movie will always be considered the best film that has ever been made. After Johnson had exited the project because of creative differences, Lucasfilm sought the help of J.J. Abrams, the writer of The Force Awakens, finished the trilogy with a revamped film that would later end up becoming The Rise of Skywalker. Back in January of 2020, the script for the film ended up being leaked online, revealing a very different film than what Abrams had created with the polarizing Rise of Skywalker film. Boyega also talked about the incident by saying that he didn't want to read the script as it would end up breaking his heart to do so. And lastly, Andor's IMAX preview makes its online debut. On the 26th of August, Lucasfilm re-released Rogue One as part of a week-long promotion event for the upcoming Disney Plus prequel series Andor. The 10-minute preview that accompanied the film has now also made its way online. The IMAX preview showcased a conversation between Cassian and Luthien, as well as the action scene following their conversation, before ending with a new trailer for the series. Andor shows the story of Cassian Andor, a former separatist turned intelligence officer who had his humble beginnings as a thief for the rebel forces before helping lead one of the most important missions in the history of the Galactic Civil War, stealing the Death Star plans. That's a wrap for this video. Do you agree with what Ewan McGregor thinks? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.